Hi, I'm TeriLeigh, and this is Chakra Alignment 101, How to Uplevel Your Life in 3 Simple Steps. This is a workshop designed specifically for introverts, highly sensitive people, and empaths. First, I want to tell you my story. I am an introvert, a highly sensitive person, and an empath. And I also discovered at a very young age that I have the gift and the ability and the challenge of being able to see auras and chakras. Auras and chakras are the subtle energies of our human body. And in typical yoga world and energy world, it's taught, the auras and chakras are taught from a very psychic woo-woo perspective. In this workshop, I'm going to teach about the chakras and the auras as a way to manage your introvert, highly sensitive, and empath sensitivities by balancing your auras and chakras through a very scientific approach. First, let me tell you my story. I am a creative-minded introvert. That means that my definition of introvert is different than the regular world. Out there in the world, most people think of introverts as people who are shy and quiet and they don't talk much. And they need their alone time in order to regenerate, to get their energy. That's partially true, but I've read studies that introverts have a very different brain. About 30 to 40% of the population are introverts. And introverts, their brains work differently than extroverts. Extroverts are very linear in their thinking, A to B. Here's where I go and that's how I get there. Whereas introverts, it's almost like our brains work in circles and loop-de-loops and twisty curves and all kinds of other stuff. We gather so much information, and we often think that information is from all over the place in all different places. And what we like to do is connect the dots between all these seemingly unrelated information. And that makes us very creative. It's about 30 to 40% of the population. We are very creative minded. What that means is I, as an introvert, have discovered that I have an awesome brain. My brain thinks very creatively and logically. I like to take in all this stuff and then find creative ways to put it all together, to analyze it, to look at it from every angle possible and multiple perspectives. That makes me an overthinker. Are you an overthinker too? As a kid, I was that shy, quiet, socially awkward, introverted person reading in the corner by myself. As a result, I was very bullied and misunderstood because I was weird. I was different. And for myself, I really enjoyed my inner imagination. I appreciated my thoughts and my feelings that I'd have by reading books more than spending time with other kids because I could think bigger and think more deeply and think more creatively. But as a result of all that, my brain spinning all the time with all this analysis, I was also an overthinker, a second guesser, very perfectionist at trying to take all that information and put it into just the right places, which made me a worrywart too. I would spin myself in circles, and that inner critic voice was constantly whispering, and then I was hearing all the voices of the people outside telling me I was weird, bullying me, saying I didn't think about things the right way, and it was just way too much. But I've come to learn through chakra balancing, through working with the subtle energies of the universe and the subtle energies inside my nervous system, that my mind is both my gift and my curse. It gives me this very rich, imaginative, creative, and analytical, and metaphoric, and spiritual, and symbolic world and life. And it can cripple me with overload and overwhelm if I let it. But if I use chakra balancing and nervous system alignment, which is chakra balancing, then I can take all that information and really cull it inside myself and feel calm. So I believe that you, as an introvert, if you believe you are one, you can train your brain using these chakra balancing, mindfulness-based neuroscience techniques so that you can quiet your monkey mind chatter, trust that inner self that is analyzing all that information, make clear and confident decisions. Once you've gathered the information and decide, you can stick to that decision. And then follow your curiosity and imagination with wonder and a new sense of life. That's your mind. I'm also a highly sensitive soul. a highly sensitive person. And that's relating to my body. An HSP is about 15 to 20% of the population. And I believe that all HSPs are also introverts. So there's this big umbrella of introverts, and then underneath that, there's a category of HSPs. An HSP means that my five senses, smell, taste, touch, and so forth, they work on overdrive. My sensory receptors are much more sensitive, kind of like a sea anemone. I feel something and I recoil because I'm feeling it much more powerfully than the average person. I can feel the subtle things. So I smell things before they go rotten. Certain sounds trigger this major anxiety. I jump easily and quickly when there's loud, unexpected noises. And even like a white noise drone can kind of grate at me. If clothes don't fit just right, they drive me insane and I have to get rid of them, the little scratchy tags that cut them out. I also feel other people's moods before they even know how they're feeling themselves because I can smell their pheromones. As a result of all that, being sensitive, oversensitive, anything external coming into my system, any stimuli, such as pharmaceutical medications, I am highly sensitive to that as well. So if there's side effects to be had from medications, I'm going to feel them, and I'm going to feel them worse than anyone else, to the point where the side effects are worse than the condition that it's meant to treat. So I don't take pharmaceutical medications because they hurt. They're worse than what they're trying to help me with. I've been pharmaceutical free for 20 years because of this. My sensitivity, this ability to receive, is both my gift and my curse. It helps me serve others, and it helps me receive the world in a much more tangible way. But it also can trigger this major anxiety and lots of feelings inside me like anger, guilt, temper tantrums, and self-isolation, just to want to put myself in a bubble to stay away from these external stimuli. But I've learned through chakra balancing, which is nervous system alignment, that I can soothe those nerves that are oversensitive, and I can balance my hormones without drugs. So that, and you can do this too, so that you can feel that internal peace, that calm, and even when there's stuff going on outside and coming at you, without having to change that outside stuff, you can balance yourself and support others with healthy boundaries. I'm also a deeply spiritual empath. So we did the mind, the introvert, the body, the highly sensitive, and now the empath is the spirit. What this means is this is more like 1 to 5% of the population. So we've got introverts as the big umbrella, highly sensitive people as a smaller umbrella, and then even under that is the empath. And the empath is someone whose moods and hormones quickly get triggered and go into overwhelm. As an empath, our hormones are, we receive that highly sensitive stuff, and then it triggers our hormones into action. Hormones govern how your body functions and how you feel emotionally. So I can feel other people's moods and emotions so quickly that I think they're my own. I'm also hyper aware of things like body language, facial expression, and verbal tone of other people. And I see those things because I'm highly sensitive, and then it triggers my moods and emotions so that I feel what that other person is feeling. My hormones match the people in the room very quickly. I also sense subtle energies of a room, which means I'm hyper aware of spiritual energies. And I'll talk about this in a little bit, what energy is in terms of chakras. But I can sense what's going on in the subspace, the non-tangible air of the room. And I think and believe in metaphor and symbolism and metaphysics because of that. I'm very curious about ghosts and entities and energies that kind of hover in a space in a room. Empaths are like that. Almost every empath I've ever met is deeply spiritual. And this spirituality is both our gift and our curse. It gives me this fuller, deeper experience of life because I'm seeing and feeling everything on this metaphoric, symbolic, and metaphysical level. But it's also extremely overwhelming because there's so much coming at me all at once. And so I need these healthy boundaries, and I need these ways to balance and manage and nourish myself without having to block myself off from all those stimuli that are coming in. You can do this too. You can integrate spirituality into your everyday life so that you can trust your intuition, feel centered and grounded, and surrender to the divine order of the universe and when things are going in the world. You can balance yourself no matter what's going on in the outside world. And that's why chakra balancing really helps align the introvert, the HSP, and the empath. It took me decades of studying all these spiritual practices that do work to balance your nervous system and to regulate your hormones and to get you into that very calm, centered place so that you can manage the outside world. It took me decades of yoga, chakra balancing, meditation, shaman work, hours and hours of study, practice, and energy work. And there were times in my life that all my practices to keep me balanced and centered inside were like 3-4 hours a day, just so that I could go out and deal with the outside world. Plus, that 3 to 4 hours a day cost me tens of thousands of dollars. It was a lot. It was overwhelming. It triggered more of my hypersensitive overwhelm. As an introvert, you have a choice. Introvert, highly sensitive person, empath. You have this choice. You can be in the victim mentality or you can be in self-awareness. The victim mentality wants to be hidden away in that bubble, wants to stay away from all that external stimuli, and expects other people to manage and take care of you because you can't handle all that overwhelm. As a result, introverts, HSPs, and empaths who are not self-aware, who do not practice these spiritual practices, you take things too personally. I did for many years. You're constantly triggered and angry and feeling feels. You're overgiving and overdoing to other people because if other people aren't feeling well, then you're not feeling well, so you have to fix everybody. Overthinking and second guessing because your brains are overgoing, and then putting others before yourself, which then eventually ends up in broken relationships. I lived like that for much of my life. Then I found these practices, but the practices made things so overwhelming. But then I found a way to integrate spirituality into my simple everyday life, which is what I'm going to teach you here. And when I did that, a self-aware introvert, highly sensitive person, an empath, is self-confident. They're able to feel things and let them go. They're able to have healthy boundaries so that they can recognize, oh, that's not mine to hold, that's not mine to feel, that's not mine to process. They're also able to slow down their brains and watch and feel and understand all those twists and turns to come to clear decisions and commit to those decisions. All of that is a very solid self-care practice that results in committed and loving relationships and a very healthy lifestyle. So I invite you, if you want to learn how to be a healthy introvert, highly sensitive person, and empath, you must learn to love your wounds, those victim things of what it means to be an introvert, highly sensitive person, and empath, and turn them into your gifts. That's what I'm going to teach you today. I wished through my years and years of study, I had one mentor in my process. I had many great teachers and many great information and wisdom coming at me, but it was way too much. I then, after decades of practicing all these things, I created a process and a protocol that is accessible and manageable for everyday average people who are introverts, highly sensitive, and empathic, just like you. So this workshop is helping you to understand that chakra balancing way of regulating your nervous system, balancing your hormones, coming to your center without having to do all the long, intensive practices. What you will learn in this workshop, I will teach you what the chakras are and how they work from a very easy peasy 5th grade science perspective. None of that psychic woo-woo stuff. I'm going to explain to you what chakras are in your body and how they work in your body and how you can activate them to work differently in 30 seconds or less. I'm also going to show you, once you understand that 30 seconds or less, 3 simple steps that take 30 seconds to align your chakras and get you to that centered place that will up-level your whole life, because you don't have to do those long-winded practices and invest in all those expensive tools like crystals and essential oils and yoga props and yoga classes and shamanic trainings and so forth. Then at the end of this workshop, I'll teach you the one balancing trick that I use to calm my anxiety and stop my overthinking every time it's triggered. It's a very fast 30-second exercise that if I do it many, many times a day, everything levels out. It's what you can practice in a tactical moment to get yourself to handle every kind of stress. I want to be clear. I'm not going to teach you certain things. I'm not going to give you a magic cure or a quick fix or a miracle medicine because I can't fix what's wrong. There's nothing wrong with you, by the way. The transformation that you need to go from the victim mentality into the self-awareness requires commitment and daily effort. Yes, it's only 30 seconds, but you have to do that 30 seconds many times a day. It's easy, but you have to do it many times a day. It's not a magic cure. I also won't teach you a practice that requires tush to the kush meditations or pretzel yoga positions or all this crazy stuff that takes hours and hours and hours. I'm going to call those down into 30 seconds in very simple scientific terms. And I'm not going to teach you anything you already don't know. You know everything inside yourself. And as we teach and as we go through this workshop, you're going to say, oh yeah, that makes so much sense. Yeah, I feel that inside myself. The solution is inside you. I'll help you find it. So let's get into the nitty-gritty. What are the chakras and how do they work? I'd like to show you this little video as an example of how the chakras work to align themselves very quickly. Now, this video is only about 3 minutes long, but I'm talking you through the process. These women here could do what they're doing in less than 30 seconds, but it takes about 3 minutes to explain it all. What's happening here is it's going to be a levitation. We've got 5 women. One, Nola, is sitting on the bench and 4 women are standing around her. They're going to try to lift Nola with their fingers, just their fingers. And right now they're saying, yeah, this is bullshit. You can't lift someone with just your fingers. And look, it didn't work. That's because their chakras aren't aligned. They're not using themselves and their energies and their nervous system in optimal alignment. So what they're going to do now is they're going to align everything by putting their mind in place, a very specific intention. So right now, all of them are thinking, she is light, we are strong. They're thinking that thought over and over and over again, getting their brain to tell their bodies how to function so that they can lift her. The brain has all that mechanics and ability. So the brain is telling the body, yeah, we're strong enough to do this, by them saying it over and over again. Now, as they stand around her and they layer their hands on top of her, above her, that layering of their hands makes them stand up taller and straighter. And as they're standing up taller and straighter, they're activating their muscles in different ways. Their brain's telling their muscles to work to lift her, and their bodies are actually doing the work because they're standing up taller and more aligned. They're aligning their spines and their nervous system. Their minds are thinking a thought, telling their bodies to do that thing, and then their bodies are actually putting themselves in place to do that thing. Then the third thing they're doing is they're breathing. They're doing a very specific, intentional breathing exercise. And that breath is the spirit. That is the subspace energy moving through their system. They're using oxygen to push the neurons through their bodies, through everything, and fuel their bodies to work. So now they're forming their fingers like guns, just like they did before, but they're holding their bodies differently. They're thinking more intentionally, and they're breathing. And look what they do. Ready? Go. They lift her up. Easy peasy. Because they put their mind in the right position, they put their body in that same position, and they activated their brains. So how does that all work in the body? What is chakra? What is a chakra? And why is it that when they use those exercises, they aligned their chakras in place? The science of chakras is that energy is life force. Really, in the 5th grade science of everything, everything in the whole world is made up of atoms and molecules. So this here is an atom, a little picture of an atom. There's the nucleus with protons and neutrons, and spinning around that nucleus are electrons. So that spinning of the electrons going around the nucleus, that's energy. That's electricity. That's energy moving. Then when an atom meets another atom, they come together because the electrons share the nuclei. And then another atom will come in there and the electrons will share that. But then something will bump them out of place and they'll reorganize. Just by moving my hands, I am reorganizing atoms and molecules, putting them into different places. That's all energy is atoms and molecules shifting around. So the science of our bodies is these atoms and molecules reorganizing, and that's our life force. So your nervous system is atoms and molecules running along your nerve pathways through those little synapses, sending electrical impulses, which is atoms and molecules reorganizing themselves. And that all changes your hormones, which is atoms and molecules, and how your body functions, atoms and molecules. So going back to 5th grade science, we are, as human bodies, filled with this super highway of nerve pathways, lines, like highways, running from our brains down our spines and out into our limbs. And there's millions of them, millions of these lined pathways where little cars, if you want to think of it as a metaphor, cars of electrical impulses, which are atoms and molecules running down those nerve pathways, reorganizing themselves. So when your brain tells your body to do something, it's an electrical impulse or a shifting of atoms and molecules down your spine, moving to send that message to the rest of the body. Oh, go change this, go change this, go change that. Now, every time a nerve pathway intersects with another nerve pathway, that intersection is a roundabout where atoms and molecules come in and then they can go out in a different pathway. But also while they're in there, they can collide with other atoms and molecules and reorganize themselves even differently. And even while they're in the nerve pathways, they can reorganize. But the biggest reorganization of atoms and molecules in the nervous system happens in those intersections. That's a chakra. In psychic woo-woo world, we talk about chakras as energy balls. Well, an energy ball is just a place where a lot of energy, a lot of atoms and molecules come in and they reorganize. So how that chakra functions as a roundabout, except it's a globe instead of a two-dimensional, how that functions as a roundabout where things are coming in and moving around determines how well the reorganization happens in your atoms and molecules, in your energy. So if that chakra is blocked, it's not really blocked, things are moving, but it's just like a roundabout that's got a traffic jam going on in it, and things need to move slowly to get where they're supposed to go, and it's harder for them to reorganize. Same thing can happen if there's not enough energy in there, there's not enough to move things, or there's not enough to reorganize. So how that chakra functions, if it's excessive, too much, deficient, not enough, or if it's jumping back and forth, extreme, or if it's working really, really well. So when you balance your chakras, it's going to tell your body how to reorganize that energy and how to function more efficiently. So each of the 7 chakras run the 7 main chakras. Now there's 72 million in your body because there's 72 million different places that nerve pathways intersect. But the biggest places, the biggest nerve pathway intersections, the biggest chakras run along your spine, from the base of your spine, your tailbone, all the way up to the crown of your head. Each of those 7 chakras, those big energy centers where lots of atoms and molecules can go in and reorganize, develops at a different stage of your childhood development. Yes, you're born with all those chakras and they all work, but they develop in their ability to function much more fine-tuned. Just like as a baby, you're born with your fingers and your toes, but it's as you develop into adulthood that you get better at using those fingers and toes. So your chakras develop systematically. So the root chakra here, safety and freedom, that develops in infancy. So what's going on in your life when you're an infant? All you need are your basic needs met. That's all you really, really care about. Can I survive? You need food, you need water, you need home, you need shelter, you need parents nurturing and love and support. So your root chakra is developing at that time when your main focus of life is about your basic needs being met. If something's going on in your life during your infancy that challenges your ability to have your basic needs met, or if your basic needs are met too easily and there's too much energy in that, then your root chakra develops that way. And so how your root chakra tends to function through your life depends on how it developed as a child, as well as the ancestry of how your parents and your grandparents, and your great-grandparents and so forth raised each other, as well as what lives in their DNA, their genetic coding. So in order to understand how your chakras function, how those organization of atoms and molecules happens in each part of your chakra system, you need to understand how you were developed as a child and how your genetics developed over time, over ancestry. So infancy is the root chakra. Toddlerhood, where we're all about play and fun, is the sacral chakra, which is the hips and pelvis, which is about play and fun and pleasure. Then we move up to the core chakra, which is preschool. That's where we become these little independent souls, and we're very individual, and we have this will and this drive and this motivation and this passion towards some sort of goal. Moving up to the heart chakra, which is grade school, where we have friends and we have relationships and we have connection with other people, and we start to work in teams and as units, and we understand the relationship between self and other. Then we move up to the throat chakra, which is middle school, where we're starting to communicate more clearly and develop a much deeper vocabulary, and to express ourselves through things like music and art and creativity and authenticity. And we understand the relationship between truth and lies. Then we move up to teenage, and that's the intuition and the reason, the deeper thinking skills, the instinct, the insight, the sensory ideas. And then young adult and adult is the deeper thinking from a spiritual and science perspective. That I will go into in a lot more detail in a whole other workshop. But getting that concept that your chakras are these bundles of nerves, these little packages of nerves that govern these different parts and aspects of your life based on how you develop Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So how do you balance and align those chakras when they're completely influenced by how you were raised and your genetics? Well, you can instantly do it. You saw it with those women who lifted Nola off the bench. You can do it by being very clear and aligned. And then the more you clear and align through these little 30-second exercises, the more you can train your chakras to function differently. It's about training and patterning. It's not an instant fix. It's a trained pattern fix that happens. And you do it by aligning your mind, intention, your body, and your spirit. So I call that the Mosey method. By practicing these 30-second mindful moments many times a day, you can get your chakras to function in much more alignment and much more efficiency. And you can lift people off of benches. So you set your mind to a very clear intention. Then you put your body into an action that matches that intention. In the case of the women lifting Nola, she is light, we are strong. We are strong. They put their bodies into a strong position. And then you add a spirit breath, a very intentional breathwork practice. So let's start with step one, that mindful intention. It's an affirmation. It's a mantra. It's a sound vibration. This is why affirmations work. When you say them, that sound vibration, well, that's atoms and molecules. And those atoms and molecules are going to hit other atoms and molecules and change the sound vibration of something else. Here's a great example of an exceptional affirmation. I'm a phenomenal woman. Maya Angelou said that in a poem over and over again. I'm a woman, phenomenally, phenomenal woman. That's me. Her intention, a phenomenal woman, those words, phenomenal woman, repeat the sound FNMW over and over and over again. FNMW. Phenomenal is very much like feminine and then woman. Feminine woman. So not only is she emphasizing the concept of a woman, feminine energy, but she's elevating that to the concept of phenomenal. So how do you create a very clear mindful intention that works? First, you always start with I am. I am translates into Sanskrit as Soham or Hamsa. Sanskrit is the first language on the planet, and it's very energetic, and it has that vibrational power. So when you are saying I am, you are literally triggering the sound of breath, the sound of life force. And breath is the most powerful way of moving energy because it's got oxygen in it, and oxygen is the atom that changes things the quickest. So by saying I am, you are triggering the life force, you're triggering the breath, and you're activating that energy life force. Then you must say your meditation or your affirmation in very clear and simple terms. So I suggest you don't use more than 3 to 7 words. 3 words is ideal, but if you use more, make sure you're repeating the right sound. I am a phenomenal woman. That's 5 words. You could even say it, I am phenomenal. It's 3 words. Speak it in the present tense because the future hasn't happened yet and the past is long gone, so you want to make it happen right now. I am a phenomenal woman. And choose your words wisely, just like Maya Angelou did. You want them to be positively phrased. So you're speaking about what you're achieving, not what you don't want, but what you do want, what you do have. So rather than saying, I'm not a difficult person, then you're emphasizing the word difficult. You want to say, I am a phenomenal woman. Emphasizing the word and the energy you want, because you want to have that sound vibration going through your system. Step 2 is the body action. You want to put your body into an action that matches what it is you're trying to achieve. So if you're wanting to claim yourself as a phenomenal woman, you would want to put your body into a feminine flow. So moving your body in a feminine way, in very feminine fluid actions, while you're thinking, I am a phenomenal woman, swaying your hips, bending with the flow, that will emphasize the concept of phenomenal woman. This is based on power posing, which is introduced by Amy Cuddy. Amy Cuddy is a scientist who is also a professor at Harvard, or she was at one point at least, a professor at Harvard Business School. And she studied body language. And she believes our bodies change our minds, and our minds can change our behavior. So our behavior can change our outcomes. So if you put your body into a position that you want your mind and your emotions to start feeling, and then if you do that, then you will eventually change the behavior to match the body. So she says, if you put yourself into a power position like Wonder Woman for 2 minutes, and then you think, I am a phenomenal woman for 2 minutes, you will eventually feel that in your hormones and then start behaving that way. And she did studies to prove this, where she analyzed people sitting in power positions versus sitting in insubordinate positions and how they behaved afterwards. Now, she had it on a 2-minute increment, but she was only using the power position. She wasn't adding the intention or the breath. So what I've done is I've added to her power position the mental intention and the spiritual breath, and that 2 minutes cuts down to 30 seconds. So what I suggest you do is you think about your mindful intention. You think it over and over and over again in your head, and then you decide on a very specific physical action that matches that intention. So Wonder Woman, being a phenomenal woman, is a great example. Standing as Wonder Woman and thinking, I am a phenomenal woman. The physical action of putting yourself in that position makes you physically feel it, and your hormones will start to shift and change and tell your brain, oh, you're supposed to be this way. So then you'll start to think that way. Doing those two actions, the body connection with the mindful intention, over and over and over again, will work. Amy Cuddy proved it. But then you add the third element and you elevate it even further. This is up-leveling your life. First step is to think it. Second step is to do it. Third step is to breathe it. You will up-level 3 steps. The word spiritus in Latin means breath. Breath is oxygen. Oxygen is the element that changes the atoms and molecules the most. So if you change your breath, you will change your life. Breathing exercises done correctly, done safely, are one of the most powerful ways to control your mind and your body. That's Lucas Rockwood, but I'm saying do all 3. Control your mind with a thought, control your body with an action, and add a breath, and all 3 work together in the magical triad to up-level your life. I guess I got really excited and I clicked the wrong button and it went a little haywire because I was so energized with reorganizing of all those hormones and all those atoms and molecules. Here's where we're at. You put your mind into a continual affirmation. You match that affirmation with a body action, and then you breathe. The breathing will change the chemistry because that oxygen coming in will attach to everything and change everything. It changes your hormones and it changes your brain chemistry and it changes what messages are going down your nervous alignment. And when you're thinking those messages, it becomes a prayer and you connect to the spiritual energy of all of it and you become present. But the key is you have to practice this many times a day until it becomes an automatic, natural habit. I am a phenomenal woman. If you stand like Wonder Woman, think you're a phenomenal woman and do a deep, focused breath 5 times a day for 5 breaths a time, you will actually start behaving like a phenomenal woman and it will change your life. But you must repeat, repeat, repeat. Just like in the bathroom when you're reading the shampoo bottle, lather, rinse, repeat. We are what we repeatedly do. 5 breaths a day, 10 times a day. I suggest you do it every time you go to the bathroom. And then you'll find yourself doing it when you're not in the bathroom. And then you'll find yourself doing it naturally all the time. So that's your example, sample Mosey method, chakra alignment exercise. I gave you the one of phenomenal woman. Here's another one, mindful intention. I let it go. I let go. 3 words. I am letting go. I am letting go. 4 words. Add a body action, letting go. I am letting go. I am letting go. You can do it with your hands or you can do it with your whole body. I'm letting go. I'm letting go. And while you're doing that letting go, deep, focused, even breath. See what happens. You'll find yourself letting things go a lot easier if you do that 10 times a day for 5 breaths at a time for 30 days. So here's my fastest chakra balancing trick to calm anxiety for us introverts whose brains are going too much and stop that overthinking. Because our brains go so much and that then turns into our bodies feeling so much and so much input coming in that we have this anxiety. Mind, body, spirit. As introverts, highly sensitive people, and empaths, we have these top challenges. We overthink, we oversense, and we overfeel. Add those 3 together, we get anxiety. So the best thing you can do for Mosey method, mind, body, spirit, chakra balancing exercise to treat that anxiety as an introvert, highly sensitive empath is this. Put your head upside down. Now, if you can't do ragdoll pose like this, try just sitting and putting your head between your knees. The mindful intention, I am calm. If you need another little kick, you can add the phrase, and quiet. I am calm. That om has that soothing, softening at the end of it. It starts with where you're at, is this little bit of anxiety, and then om. Very clear, mindful intention. Add that to getting your head upside down. Calming, putting your head below your heart, draining those thoughts out of the crown of your head like a salt shaker. It's impossible to overthink when you're upside down. And then a deep, slow, even, calm breath, where you can't tell the difference between the inhale and the exhale. It's just all the same. Do this 10 times a day, 5 breaths at a time, and see how your empath anxieties feel then. You're hungry for more? The Mosey method works. You really got to do it. But I've found that even when I teach this to people in these workshops like this, they don't actually do their homework. You think about it, you know you should, but you need someone to hold you accountable. So I recommend that you sign up for a 45-minute free chakra assessment with me, where I will give you an idea of what your levels of introvert, highly sensitive, and empath are, and how your chakras tend to function in general. And then I'll give you an up-leveling action plan, where I'll talk you through how in one-on-one coaching with me, we could work through chakra by chakra, giving you a specific Mosey method exercise for each chakra to align that chakra into a new way of being. Once you learn what your chakra really functions like. That's free. You can book it anytime on my website, TeriLeigh.com. I'll send you a link attached to this video. Because when you do one-on-one sacred mentorship with me and you work through chakra by chakra, this is what you'll find. You will learn how your chakras developed in your childhood. And you can identify and heal those inner child wounds. You will also identify your chakra tendencies and your strengths, your dominance in your chakras, so that you can work effectively with those strengths and know what you're supposed to be doing in this world. And then also adequately compensate for those weaknesses that you just never be able to build up too much, but you'll be able to build those weaknesses as well. You will understand how your ancestors influence your chakra function through the genetic development, as well as how you were raised by your family, so that you can address and heal any generational trauma that came into your system, but also amplify your ancestral blessings. You will receive personalized chakra balancing exercises for each of your 7 major chakras that integrate into your everyday life. And when you get through all 7 of those chakras, you will step by step, chakra by chakra, up level again, up level again, up level again, so that you come out of victimhood, out of anxiety, out of depression, into, I know my purpose. I know what I'm supposed to do, and I am out there living my best, perfect, better than best life, so that you can up-level your life to a new state of awesome. Here's a whole list of books that I suggest that I read that helped me develop this system. And 2 of them are written by me. So this is included. I'll email you this PowerPoint presentation and you'll be able to pick those books out as well. And here's where you can find me. Thank you for joining me for this class. Namaste.